Hello, my name is Tom Kaus, and this is my video for week number 4. So I created a function, and the function lists the factors of a number. I did this 3 different times, so here's my first attempt. So to start me off, I tried to write everything down, try to visualize what I needed to write in my code. So my first example was 20. So how would I find the factors of 20? Well, one way would be to make a for loop, all right, from 1 to 20, right, to give a number up to 20, and to check each one, divide each one, 20 divided by 1, by 2, by 3. Whichever numbers give me 0 as the remainder, this is mod, will be a factor, and I would print it out. Okay, so there is my thinking. Okay, the first thing though that I would do is make sure that the number is positive. So here is my code. The name of the function is print factor. My number that I chose is 34, so I pass it into the function here, and it is positive, so I'll type in factors of, and then a colon here. Here's my for loop. It goes from 1 to 34, and here's my division, checking to see if the remainder is 0. If it does, I console log that particular number. So for 34, this was my print off. So in my next attempt, I made an array. And I used the same for loop. I checked each number with the mod, and any remainder with a 0 meant that was a factor. And the term that we use is push. So I'm going to push those numbers into my array. And then when I'm finished, I will then print out that array. Okay, so I'm letting factors equal the function get factors. And the number I'm using will be 100. So when I call the function, I put 100 into here, which is positive. Okay, and then I'm going to construct my array here, factors. Okay, constant factors equals a blank array. Then here's my for loop. I check each one, and if I get 0 as the remainder, I push that number. And then I continue on until the very end, to 100. And then I return that array of factors, and I console log, I print it out. So for 100, there's my list. So instead of making the for loop 1 until 100, you can shorten that by taking the square root of that number. So the square root of 100 is 10. So your for loop would only be from 1 until 10. Okay? And so what you have to do is again, that for loop will be 1 to 10, so you check to make sure that it's a factor, so that it's divisible by 1, and the remainder is 0. And if that's true, you push it into the array, and then you have to push its partner, okay, that 100. So 100 divided by 1, you'd push that, okay? And then you'd push 2, and then you'd push 100 divided by 2, which is 50. Okay, you wouldn't push 3, you'd push 4, and then you would push 100 divided by 4, which is 25. And you continue to do that until you get to the square root. Okay, and once you get to the square root, you only print it off one time. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. Okay, so here's the code. The function name is print factor, and I'm using the variable data. And so I let the data be 360. So I call the function, okay, it's going to be positive. And so I create the array factors, and I take the square root of the number 360, and then, which is about 18 point something. So my for loop will only go from 1 until 18. Okay, so I'm only going to check from numbers 1 to 18. And so so here is my if statement, and this determines whether the numbers are a factor or not. And so when it is a factor, okay, I'm going to push it, and then I'm going to check to see if that pair is the square root. Then I would stop. Okay, it's not the square root, so then I push that pair. Okay, so the first one is going to push 1, and then it's going to push its pair, which is 360. And then it's going to come back to 2. Okay, 2 is a factor of 360, so I'm going to get 0 here. So 360 divided by 2 gives me 0 as the remainder. So I'm going to push that 2, and then that one, I'm sorry, the 2 is not the square root, so I'm going to push 360 divided by 2, 180. And I continue that until I reach 18 in this case. And then it's going to list all the factors as pairs, you might say. 1, 360, 2, 180, 3, 128, 4, 90, and so on. Okay? Now, I was okay with that, but what if I wanted them in order from lowest to highest? So what I did was I added sort. Okay? And we learned this maybe a week ago. And sort takes the numbers and orders them from lowest to highest. So I added this part here before I console logged all the factors. So then when it does console log the factors, all the factors will be in order. Okay? So let's check this out here. And there it is.